All right, today we're going to be looking at multiplying decimals visually. Now on the STAR test, you are allowed to use a pencil and you are allowed to use a highlighter. So for this activity, we're going to be using our pencil and our highlighter. And so number one, our first question is I have 7/10 multiplied by 4/10. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 100 grid here, my model, and I'm going to shade my first number going vertically. So I'm going to shade in 7/10 or 7 columns. And so I'm going to shade it in, and maybe it's not the most beautiful artwork in the world, but it gets the job done. So shade it in 7/10. And then what I need to do is I need to shade in 4/10, and the easiest way for me to do that is go ahead and turn my paper. And so if I do that, I'm going to shade in 4/10 this direction, 1/10. Now make sure you shade all the way across the whole column, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10. And so now I've shaded my 7/10 and I shaded my 4/10. And what I find is that the area that is shaded twice is going to be my product, or going to be my answer. So this area here, and so here I have a rectangle that is 4 units tall and 7 units wide, and so that's going to be my answer. And so 4 times 7 is 28, so my area is 28. But if this whole square is one whole, then each of these little squares are hundredths. So it's not 28 wholes, but 28 hundredths. And so that's going to be my answer, is 28 hundredths. Number 2, 8/10 multiplied by 9/10. So same thing, I'm going to use my pencil. And again, on STAR test, we're allowed a pencil and a highlighter, so that's why I'm choosing to use these two things. You could, for classwork, use 2 different color pencils or markers or other things, but since those are not allowed on the STAR test, I'm going to use a pencil and highlighter. So I have my 8/10 shaded. We'll rotate my paper, shade 9/10. And then now, my overlapping area is going to be my product. And so I have it a rectangle that is 9 units tall and 8 units across, and 8 times 9 is 72, or the area of this overlapping area is 72. And again, these are hundredths, so my answer is 72 hundredths. Number 3, this one I noticed today in class that a lot of students actually missed this. They said, oh, I see, it's just multiplying, and I'm just going to stick a decimal there. But we want to make sure that we actually follow this all the way through. So even if you're seeing patterns and you're making a rule of those patterns, which is good mathematicians do that, I want to make sure that we're not going to fall into a trap of misconception and just assuming something. So let's go ahead and work this one out just to be sure. And so shade my 3 columns. And the reason I say all this is because what I was noticing a lot of students were putting in for their answers, they were saying, oh, well, that's just going to be decimal 9 or 0.9, or some people would even write 0.9 as their answer, when in fact that answer is not correct, as we'll see in just a moment. Because I agree with you, 3 times 3 is 9, but let's look at and see what actually happens. So shaded my 3 columns, shade my 3 columns this way, or my 3 rows. Once again, the overlapping area is going to be my product, or my answer, and it is this area here. So 3 by 3 rectangle or square, and so that is 9, but it's not just 9 tenths, as if you wrote 0.9 0.9, that would be 9/10. And it's not 9/10. Those squares are not tenths. In fact, those squares are hundredths. And so my answer would in fact be 9/100. Let's do one more, and then I think that hopefully by then you should be able to get it. If not, ask me in class and we can go over it a little more. But our last one for this video, 5/10 times 5/10. So here's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10. Now I need to shade 5/10 going the other direction. And once again, my overlapping area, 5/10 and 5/10. So here I have a rectangle, or even a square if you will, of 5 units by 5 units. And so 5 times 5 is 25, and these are 25 hundredths. And so there is my answer, 25 hundredths. And just continue the pattern on, and you should be able to do these very easily. And we did talk about how to know exactly where a decimal will go in class today. We'll talk about that more tomorrow, but in the meantime, I just wanted to make sure I did this video to make sure you had a good understanding.